Alright, so in this video I want to talk about what is, in my opinion, Harley-Davidson's new direction, and, well, kind of the reason why I don't agree with it. Totally. Anyway, so what Harley's... Okay, let's go. We're going back to the 90s, because anything farther back than that, and it just doesn't really apply to what I'm saying. It's too far, it's too long ago. So in the 90s, what did we have? Actually, mid-80s, 1985. Came out with the and my years might not be exactly right, but I know they're close. So we came out with the FXR with the Evo engine around, I think it was 84 or 85. And then in that time you had the FXR, you had the lowrider, you had the custom, you had the sport, the S model, you had the T model, the touring model that had the fairing and the bags. You know, all throughout the 80s and 90s, they came in and out with those models. You know, again, I don't know all the exact years, not really the point. So you had basically the equivalent to what we have in Dynas today. You had in FXRs back then. But what the FXR gave you was a frame designed by Eric Buell that handled better, and the way the frame design was, they were a lot better handling bike, and at least the frame was a lot stiffer, and with the proper suspension, let's put it that way, they were a lot better handling bike. And they were slower, unfortunately, because of the engine, but... Oh, Harley-Davidson's new direction. So back then you had that, and then eventually throughout the earlier 2000s you had the Sportster Sport model, the XL 1200S. You had you had Roadsters back in the day too, in the late 90s, early 2000s. You had the Sportster Roadster. My point is, all those models were sporty Harley-Davidson. They were sport cruising bikes, if you ask me. They were made to handle turns. They had dual front disc brakes. They had, you know, more ground clearance, taller seat heights. They were meant to carve corners. For a cruiser. Now you look at today, and what's left? We have every Sportster is slam. The Iron is slam. The Nightster is slam. The 48 is slam. The 72 is slam. The Low is obviously slam. The Super Low, it's the Super Low. So my point is, and the new touring one, again, it's still lowered suspension. So they all have 11, 12-inch shocks on them and shorter front forks, and they're not made to handle turns. And Harley's done that because a lot of new riders buy the Sportster and they want to capture that crowd. And I understand that. But at the same time, they also, Harley-Davidson complains about not being able to capture young people. Well, what do young people want? Sport bikes, you know, because young people buy a lot of sport bikes. So what should you give them? Give them a Sportster that can handle turns. It seems kind of obvious to me. Like the Roadster. It has 13.25-inch tall shocks from the factory, taller forks than the Iron or any of those other bikes. And this thing will handle turns. I kid you not. You can almost scrape your knee on the road. And if you get one of these things on the track, I've heard, I've never done it, but I've heard with a knee pad on, you can scrape your knee along the ground on a cruiser. I mean, that's just amazing. That's incredible for a Harley-Davidson to be scraping your knee around a turn and not crashing. And so what that brings me to is Harley-Davidson needs, in my opinion, needs to come out with bikes like this. Come out with apparently the dark custom line is very popular. The Irons are very popular. The Nightster is very popular. 48 is. So come out with like an Iron XL or something that's like an Iron or like a Nightster, but it's got the full height suspension like the Roadster. Give it 13.25-inch rear shocks and longer front forks. Get it back up in the air for taller, bigger people who can reach the ground and just want to sport corner, like I do. I think that I personally, I think that would help. I really do. Give somebody both the styling and the performance. Put the dual front discs back on it. Turn it back into a sporty cruising bike, not just a laid-back cruiser with apes. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that young people want sportier bikes, and for young people who want to buy a new bike or a newer bike, the newest Roadster is 2008. I mean, that's kind of old. It's not really that new anymore. And I mean, my bike's an 05. If you're not mechanically adept, you know, using a bike. Wow, this is a lot of cars here. Holy crap! What the heck? Holy, what's even going on? I don't know. It's flea market, but that's it. Anyway, there's just so many. So like, if you're not mechanically adept and you can't like fix all your own stuff, to own a bike even from 2005, I mean, this thing's only got 26,500 miles on it, but you know, it's 9 years old, and it sat a lot when the first owner had it, so it sat a lot until 2010, and you know, and things wear out when that happens. It's on motorcycles in general, you know, everything's exposed. Your engine's exposed, all your wiring. It's not like a car where everything's hidden safely under the hood. So things wear out faster. It's just the nature of the beast. I mean, it's nothing to do with the brand or the quality of stuff. It's just that they're just exposed to everything. So what you have to do, so what's nice is, if you have the money, you buy newer bikes, you don't have to deal with that kind of the problems that come with, you know, having your bike being older. So you have a bunch of younger people who want to have fun, go around turns a little too fast, so they won't even entertain a Harley-Davidson because they don't make one, you know, toward that demographic. To me, like, okay, so Harley-Davidson's commercials, for example, all the commercials are just generally of people cruising on a country road or riding through the city. And I mean, that's great and all, but make a video, make a sporty Sportster, and then make a video of somebody carving corners with it, and guess what? That's what young people do on sport bikes, so they might see that and be like, oh, I can do this on a Harley-Davidson? That'd be cool. I feel like people would see that, and people would then buy the bikes, because I think a lot of people just like Harley-Davidsons because of the sound and because of the heritage and all that, but they might not buy one because they don't think the bike can do what they want it to do. They don't understand that you can send a Roadster through a turn at twice the posted speed limit and come out of it safely. And so I think that's Harley-Davidson's biggest mistake right now. If they want to attract a younger buyer, continue with the dark custom line, because that's obviously worked, and just add to it and make more sporty bikes. That's the best thing they could do, in my opinion. Make a Dyna. I mean, they had the FXDX, which was kind of a dark custom bike before they had the dark custom line, because it was all blacked out engine, everything was all blacked out on it, and it was it had taller suspension, dual front disc brakes. It was a sporty Dyna, and apparently it didn't sell, but that was also 10 plus years ago. That was 13 years ago now. So bring stuff like that back, give it a shot. They gave the Switchback a shot and it didn't sell, so they terminated it, which is fine. They gave the XR 1200 a shot, which I am surprised that the XR 1200 didn't sell to more young people. But what I think the problem with that is people said, if I'm going to be in a sport bike seating position, why don't I get sport bike power and sport bike price? So I think that was kind of what did it in for the XR. That's why I think they need to make a sportier Harley Sportster on the XL frame, and I really do think people would buy it. Maybe I'm wrong. I know they know what the heck they're doing. They're professionals. I sure as heck aren't. But I think it would help. I know, my personal opinion, being a young person, that would get me to buy a new bike sooner, because this bike will wear out on me eventually, to a point where it just isn't reliable to ride. Where it just isn't reliable to ride every day. It'll probably take a while, but it will happen eventually, and I will have to buy a new bike. So whatever that winds up being, you know, it's just a matter of what I have to live with. Now, I think if you had any younger person on it, if you had any younger person on the bike, I really think if they took it around turns and stuff, they would be impressed and they would be willing to buy one if it was their style. Anyway, that's my 2 cents for whatever it's worth, and talk to you all later. Bye.